Le cyclone efa mpandalo aminay eto ka tsy afaka hiala zahay kanefa tsy mana materiely hampiasanay amile tragnonay.
Countries from the Southwest Indian Ocean are very different from each other from a socio-economic point of view. Yet, they share a common denominator: exposure to natural hazards. Nearly 100 million people inhabit this region of the globe, as the case may be, in several small island developing states such as the Comoros, Seychelles, or Mauritius, on the mainland in Mozambique and Tanzania, and also on the huge island Madagascar. They are regularly victims of natural disasters. Hurricanes in Madagascar and Reunion Islands, floods in Mauritius and the Comoros, drought in Tanzania, landslides, epidemics, and finally, volcanic eruptions. The list is long, and each year, many of these natural hazards are simultaneously threatening populations in the Indian Ocean, with the result that in the past 30 years, more than 90 natural disasters affected the countries of the region. Climate change might also predictably increase the frequency and intensity of the natural hazards these populations are most vulnerable to. Some of these disorders are already noticeable.
Avec le changement climatique, il y a des bouleversements qui entraînent d'autres bouleversements. Depuis quelque temps, nous avons eu à gérer plus du tout un cyclone, mais des pluies torrentielles qui ont provoqué des dégâts considérables.
All these disasters have immediate consequences for populations in terms of access to housing, water, sanitation, and food security. They also have indirect and long-term consequences, especially on the health and livelihoods of populations.
Any changes happen in the climate system, automatically it affects human system, or not only human system, the environment, and also any living organism. If a country has not good drainage system, so that may lead to accumulation of water. It is a place where mosquitoes can proliferate, that leads to vector-borne disease. So you may have a high prevalence of malaria, or what you call chikungunya. Like in Russian context, you may have these things. But in other countries, you may have other diseases like dengue fever and other things. So unless we have appropriate health system, we will see high prevalence of these diseases.
In addition to human losses and material damage, disasters generate financial losses that may paralyze the economy of the countries concerned, even several months after a disaster.
Il a été estimé environ 333 millions de dollars de dommages et de pertes après donc le passage d'un cyclone à Madagascar. Ça représentait à l'époque environ 4% du produit intérieur brut du pays.
Therefore, the impact of disasters in the Indian Ocean greatly exceeds the budgets established in a hurry within the first hours following a cyclone or a flood. In addition to people getting injured or perishing, one must consider the economic and social impacts. Destroyed roads, collapsed houses, schools and hospitals, paralyzed transportation and trade. All these factors compromise the development of an entire population. Faced with these dramatic situations, humanitarian actors, NGOs, UN agencies, and the movement of the Red Cross are mobilizing themselves. Their objective is to provide as soon as possible livelihoods to those affected by natural disasters.
Les activités d'urgence, c'est une activité qui doit toujours être continuée et les équipes d'urgence dans les sociétés nationales doivent être toujours actifs et prêts à intervenir en cas de besoin.
The Red Cross teams have been trained to meet the entire needs of populations in an emergency situation. They conduct quick assessments, identify priority needs, and conduct first aid operations. Building temporary shelters, treating water, and distributing emergency supplies are also part of the skills of these regional teams specialized in responding to disasters.
La première activité qu'on avait fait pendant l'urgence, c'est on a essayé de déblayer la boue dans des maisons et dans les citernes. Après, la deuxième activité, c'est qu'on a nettoyé les citernes.
In the Indian Ocean, the Red Cross responds through PIROI. This regional intervention platform brings together the different entities of the Red Cross and Red Crescent distributed in the region. As part of its emergency preparedness and responding, it develops plans of intervention, prepositions stocks of equipment, and trains new crew. Therefore, several emergency operations are conducted each year, along with the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies and also the national societies. This is a guarantee of an appropriate and effective response to crisis.
So we do coordinate with the different entities to not only reduce risk but to mitigate for future disaster. We use the efforts of the entities best situated for any disaster at the current time when it happens in the Indian Ocean island.
The deployment mechanisms of these actors demonstrate their effectiveness each year. It takes less than 72 hours to the Red Cross movement to provide humanitarian equipment and deploy disaster management specialists. To give two examples, several tons of emergency kits and dozens of water treatment units are transported each year to affected areas. Emergency response is effective and irreplaceable, but it's not enough. We must allow populations to be more resilient to natural hazards. Contrary to normal expectation, these disasters do not always represent a risk to populations. The impacts of a hurricane, a flood, or a landslide can be greatly reduced whenever prevention activities have been conducted. Natural hazards are not inevitable. They can be managed and reduced. Actions to reduce disaster risks are efficient indeed, but since they are not spectacular, they tend to get little media coverage and therefore are difficult to finance.
Techniquement, une catastrophe, c'est une rencontre de deux composantes. Un aléa, comme par exemple un cyclone, qui est un aléa climatique, et une vulnérabilité. Un cyclone dans une zone désertique, ce n'est pas une catastrophe. Un cyclone qui arriverait en zone urbaine où il y a beaucoup de population, ça peut être une catastrophe. Travailler autour de la thématique des catastrophes, c'est agir avant, pendant et après. C'est le cycle de gestion des risques.
Activities who involve disaster risk reduction are at the heart of the action of the Red Cross movement.
La réduction des risques de catastrophe, c'est un ensemble d'actions qui vont être faites pour réduire l'impact d'une catastrophe naturelle sur des populations. Donc ça va se travailler sur des connaissances, de l'information, savoir ce que c'est qu'un aléa naturel, un cyclone, comment ça se forme. Il peut y avoir aussi des actions, je dirais, plus concrètes, avec de la construction, par exemple, de murs de protection qui vont être construits en amont des catastrophes, lorsque le risque est connu, ou qui pourront être aussi également réalisés lors de la phase post-urgence.
Climate change, which affects the entire planet, doesn't spare the Indian Ocean and tends to aggravate the situation. The rising sea levels are contaminating the resources of coastal freshwater. Droughts and floods last longer and tend to undermine ecosystems. Finally, the increase in ocean temperature contributes to the creation of cyclones. It is only through disaster risk reduction programs that these changes can be minimized to sustain the development of countries, allowing people to live in security.
I'm working with the youth club, so to make them aware of the risk that we have around us, in our community, at home, in our district. So try to find out what we can do about that, because we have to mitigate. We have to look up what is there for us to work upon it. So what we can work upon it, we work upon it to reduce disaster.
Il est important de savoir se protéger, se soigner, se signaler, etc. Et donc c'est le but de cette formation, d'aller apprendre aux enfants ou aux personnes en état de handicap comment faire.
Ny dikany satria am'le tahidraty am'le tsy-arivo-doza zany no fiarovana azy mba hampatandraka azy anamboaran'io fondation-n'io ho anabonabo.
if you spend $1 on risk reduction activity, you can save up to $10 in response and recovery cost. So it's not only that it's improving in ways of how we utilize the funds, but it's also take the funds that we have available to the specific needs addressed by the local community when we respond and when we prepare for disasters.